Did you see the original Microsoft recall announcement on Twitter? It went down like a bag of bricks, and Microsoft has had to recall for the time being. Because everyone has the same questions. What about privacy? Where is my data going? Is it safe? And am I safe? Hi, I'm Jose with Teclado, and you may not know that I'm a very private person. So when Pieces contacted me to make a video about their app, which among other things remembers everything you've done to act as a second brain, I was horrified. So to make this video, I used the app for several weeks testing all the different features. And the team at Pieces made themselves available to talk through the app, guide us through all the different features, and talk extensively about privacy and how they've built their app with it front and center. Let's talk about Pieces. And let's begin with part 1, capturing snippets. The thing is, you don't have to use Pieces for their screenshotting and second brain capabilities. Originally, it was an app for capturing and storing code snippets. When I'm learning a new framework or language, I tend to keep bits of code around so that I can refer back to them and reuse them later. And before using Pieces, these went right into new Obsidian notes that I kept around forever. But the team identified that code snippets and coding notes are a little bit different and they are used differently, and I tend to agree. When I write coding notes, it's mostly to distill some knowledge, understand it better myself, and eventually, when it matures, share it with other people. But when I keep a code snippet, it's just for myself to reuse it later and build a collection of useful snippets that I can pick out from. Both are useful in their own way. Not every code snippet you save has to become a coding note that you expand over time, and there's a bit less pressure this way. But there are pros and cons to having an app made specifically for code snippets. A huge benefit is that it's much easier to search through your code snippets than it is to search through your Obsidian notes. But a con of having an app made for code snippets is that it's another app, and the file format and structure that it uses are not as open as just using markdown files and folders with Obsidian. But there's a reason for this proprietary format, and that's enrichment. Whenever you save a code snippet, Pieces can enrich it for you. Using AI, it can give it a title, a description, find relevant documentation links, tags, and more. And again, comparing it to saving it in my Obsidian vault is way less friction. Because you don't have to create a note, give it a title, put some tags in there, and then paste the code blocks. You can just paste it direct into the Pieces app, and that's it. But wait, what about privacy? Is your code being sent out somewhere for analysis? And the team has assured me that no code is being sent anywhere, everything is processed locally. And I've also done a little bit of investigation myself, and I'll show you the findings in just a moment. There's a setting in the settings page that says enrichment mode local. And if you set that, it doesn't send anything anywhere. Here you can see me saving a code snippet with the Wi-Fi off, and it all works as expected. Of course, cloud models tend to be more powerful than local ones, so you're going to get better results if you don't use local processing exclusively. So anyway, how does this all work? Because there are a few parts to enrichment. The first is code language detection. There's an API that takes the code snippet and returns the language, the syntax highlighted code, and more. But this API also runs in your device in the Pieces OS software, so no code is sent anywhere. Then there's enrichment links. These are taken from a knowledge graph. Pieces pre-ships with a fair amount of knowledge, and over time as you use the app, it also expands and can create links between snippets. Finally, the generated title, tags, and description, and this uses the local or remote LLM depending on your settings. It's also handy that you can add manual enrichment as well, so if you want, you can add a note to a code snippet. This bridges the gap a little bit between code snippets and coding notes. Code snippets can also be used as context when you're chatting to a local or remote LLM, which brings us nicely into part 2, Copilot chats. And honestly, this is a killer feature of this app. It will easily install and manage local LLM models if your computer is powerful enough to run them, and lets you switch between them. And it's free, at least for now, so you can use any cloud LLM that's added to the app for free for the time being. It also lets you add context to your chats very easily. You can just add a file or folder of code to be included in your requests, or reference a snippet or website. Just try not to go over the modal's token limit. The team told me that for now, they're not allowing users to bring their own local models. They just add them to the app when they think they're ready, but they do take suggestions in their GitHub repository. You can see in the conversation context menu, there's a rather innocuous looking setting. Live context off. I wonder what this means. Let's talk about the weird and wonderful, the Workstream Pattern Engine, or WPE. What's this all about? In some ways, it's similar to Microsoft Recall, but weren't there some privacy concerns? Well, the thing is, Microsoft Recall worked by taking regular screenshots every 5 seconds and processing them into something that an AI large language model can understand. Then you can chat with it and it remembers everything, like a second brain. Think Jarvis from Iron Man. It knows everything you've ever done to help you with recalling things. But here's the kicker. The screenshots were kept easily accessible and viewable. So if a screenshot was taken while you were looking at your online banking, details could be stored in the screenshot, and later, if you got hacked, the hacker could get a hold of those details. So that's not great. I will say that Microsoft has been making some privacy improvements, but the reputation is a little bit tarnished. Okay, so how is Pieces different? I spoke to the team at Pieces and their CEO in depth about privacy, and there are a few parts to it. But first, let's get the obvious out of the way. Pieces has paid me to make this video, and I've also done a lot of research myself. But when a company has any claims about privacy or security, unless the code is open source and you yourself can look at it and verify it does what it's saying it does, it's all a matter of trust. Any claims they've made, I've tried to verify, as I'll show you in a little bit. The first thing they've done for privacy is that screenshots are processed very quickly on device and turned into text using OCR, optical character recognition. And then they are deleted. You can't view past screenshots, and neither can anyone else. Second is that the extracted text from those screenshots is scrubbed of any personal information or sensitive data. For example, if you use the live context and ask what API key you used in a certain project, it won't be able to tell you because it'll be redacted. And there are various other privacy concerns, such as only taking screenshots of the currently focused window. So if you use a multi-monitor setup, it's not taking screenshots of everything all the time. But the turning of screenshots into text is only part of the game. The rest is actually using that text in your conversations with LLMs. So if you turn on live context before you send the message in your Copilot chat, the app will try to figure out if you're asking about something that may be stored in a WPE. If it thinks you are, then using local processing, it will try to find that information in the Workstream Pattern Engine database, and it is at that point that it will include it as context in your chat. So companies like Microsoft or OpenAI don't have access to your entire Workstream Pattern Engine database, only to the relevant context. However, the bad thing is you don't know what context from the Workstream Pattern Engine is being included in the chats and sent to those companies. It would be nice for Pieces to say, hey, you're going to send this data to OpenAI, and maybe let us modify that or prevent it from being sent altogether. But anyway, what are some use cases for this? Well, let's say you're working in a software project and you find a bug and you fix it, and then several weeks or months later, you encounter a very similar bug in another project. Using the WPE, you might be able to ask your chat for how you fixed that bug, and then it might be able to help you out with that. Another example, you might ask, what linter settings was I using in that project? And then you don't have to go back and find the settings that you used. Also, a recent example just from yesterday where I was writing something on a website and then I pressed submit, the form was cleared, but the thing didn't work, and I lost the thing that I was writing. Well, you can ask the Workstream Pattern Engine for the thing that you were just writing, and it might have taken a screenshot at the right time, and you might be able to recover some of your work like that. So it's quite useful. There is a key privacy-focused feature that I asked them several times about, and it is allegedly coming, and that is whitelisting certain apps. I might be okay with the Workstream Pattern Engine screenshotting my Visual Studio Code window every few seconds, but I don't really want it screenshotting my personal messages. Whitelisting apps may make that possible. But let's talk about part 4, privacy. Privacy is obviously a huge deal with software like this. Screenshots are being taken, data is being extracted from them, and it's being sent over the internet to many other companies depending on the model you're using, and so we want to be careful. So I've installed a firewall in my computer. I want to see whether I can prevent the Pieces app from making any request whatsoever using local processing and putting it behind the firewall, and see if it works so that I can still use it while being connected to the internet. We'll also be able to see what requests it's trying to make, and later I'll ask the team what each one of them is for. Alright, so let's have a look at what's going on. We've got Little Snitch here, which is our firewall app. So let's open up Pieces OS, and now you'll start to get these firewall alerts for every request that the apps try to make. And here we've got Sentry.io, this is error tracking. And if you want to share telemetry and diagnostics with an app, you can allow these, but we're going to deny them for now because we're looking to deny everything as much as possible. So let's deny any connection for now. And we'll go over to pieces. And the app is here. And we're going to deny everything as well. Let's go over to our Copilot chats. You can see that it appears as disconnected from the internet, even though I am connected to the internet. And here, if we try to use Cloud 3.5 Sonnet, for example, and we say hello, we'll get that this feature requires cloud capabilities. We are currently in our settings set to enrichment mode local only. And also, obviously, we're disconnected from the internet. So let's do a new chat and change to a local model. We're going to use this Mistral 7B. And we'll say, hello, can you help me with a Python question? Now you should be able to see that once the model is loaded into memory, then it starts to work. And we haven't made any requests anywhere. So that's good. How do you write hello world in Python? Now you can see this works. And the interesting thing is you've got the syntax highlighting, you've got the code block marked as Python. And this is that runtime API that I mentioned earlier that is working inside Pieces OS. No web requests were made, but you still got that API working in there. Let's go back to our saved materials, and we're going to save a new snippet. So I was recently working with AI to improve this. I posted about it on Twitter. So let's go over to Pieces. I've copied that, and we're just going to paste it in here. By the way, you can see how nice an experience for pasting this is. You just go and paste. You don't have to create new notes or anything. And now you can see that because we were using local enrichment only, it's less powerful. And the enrichment here is probably not as good as it could have been if you used cloud models. Let's go back to Little Snitch, and I'm going to delete these. And now we're again going to start getting notifications. We can start to look at what each one of these does. So 1111 is a DNS resolver. We can allow that. Google.com, we can allow that for the time being. Now you can see we got connected to the internet. So clearly that was checking our internet connection. 8844 is another DNS. This is some more DNS. Okay, so segment.io, this is for customer segmentation and analytics. It's up to you whether you allow this. It's for diagnostics and telemetry and things like that. We're going to deny that. Let's open Pieces OS, and there you've got some more Sentry. We can deny. We've got gstatic.com. Don't know what that is. We're going to deny that. And now we can go over to Copilot Chats. And you can see that we have SitePoint.com. This is probably some website that was somehow related to this code snippet, and we're going to deny that. mossgcp.net, don't know what this is. Probably some more documentation. We can deny that. Mozilla.org, we can deny all of these. Or you can allow them. That's also up to you. And let's go over to new chat. And now you can see that we've got a run.app. This is the Google Cloud function running, so it's probably related to these suggested prompts, I would imagine. It's making a request to Google Cloud to make suggestions for what prompts you may be interested in. If you deny this, you won't be able to make any cloud model requests. We'll deny it for now, and I'll show you how that works. Let's go over to Mistral 7B and cloud models. Let's use Sonnet. You can see that this is free for now, so we're using Cloud 3.5 Sonnet, but we are not providing our own API key, which means that we are using Pieces API keys. That is why they use run.app. Our requests go to their Google Cloud, and their Google Cloud then sends the requests to the Anthropic API using their API key. If they put their API key here in the Pieces app and we send the requests directly to Anthropic, we could extract that API key from the app and then use it for whatever else we wanted. So they don't want to do that. Okay, we've got Sonnet there, and we'll say, hello, how are you? And this should not work because, again, it says it requires cloud capabilities. The request that we're making to Google Cloud is failing because we've denied it here. So let's change that and try again. I think we need a new chat. Hello, world. We need to change to blended processing. Now we're in blended processing. Let's try again. And now we can see the run.app request is being made again. So this time we will allow it. And now we get our response back. So as you can see, everything seems to work when things are turned off, and you can opt to turn them on if you want to allow certain communications. You can also see that when we save the code snippet, your code is not being sent anywhere because it works with the requests all turned off. So hopefully this satisfies a little bit these privacy claims that pieces are making. I'm quite happy that it's doing what they say it's doing, but it always comes down to what you think. So what do you think about pieces and this whole class of tools altogether? Do you use them in your day-to-day, or do you use them when learning new tools and frameworks? Let me know down in the comments below. I'm really interested to know what you think. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.